The manhwa begins with the breaking news that Xiong Yang, the son of real estate tycoon Tai Fei, spent a huge amount of money to purchase the Real Madrid football club because of his desire to play. Before us is our main character named Xiong Yang. He doesn't like cheap cars and rich girls. All he likes is hitting the ball. According to him, he really likes to play football. The fierce football game continues. Our main character was already ready to make a show and show all these football superstars his magnificent header, just like Ronaldo. But at the moment of trying to deliver this blow, something clearly went wrong and Xiong Yang received a powerful blow, and the moment his head hit the ball, he ended his life. However, after our main character, albeit very absurdly, left the real world, what awaited him was not heaven or hell, but some strange systemic spheres that surrounded his vision after death. After these strange system elements disappear, we watch as our main character awakens in a completely different body. He slowly opens his eyes. This guy was clearly very lucky both in his previous life and in his new one, because immediately after he opens his eyes before death, he sees a rather attractive picture in front of him. This guy's critical thinking immediately makes him understand that he is still on the football field, and right now in front of him is a ball that he needs to hit with his head to show everyone. Xiong Yang realizes that he doesn't have a single second to hesitate, so a moment later he makes that legendary header on the ball, or so he thought. While the guy, after making a blow, is very happy that he was able to carry out his plan, the service staff simply could not believe their eyes, because the young mistress flew away from the blow. Immediately after this incredibly strange incident occurred, those who witnessed it immediately shouted the name of this girl, Lady Jane, as loudly as possible. Even the poor birds were in shock. Meanwhile, our unsuccessful football player realizes that something is wrong. Little by little, realizing that he is somewhere, he wonders what kind of Lady Jane we are talking about. He asks this. Another moment later, and the computational processes in this guy's brain allow him to understand that he is not now on the football field. He immediately wonders where he ended up. Meanwhile, two servants approached the woman who had suffered from our main character. They tried to figure out if she was alive. They asked her to wake up and begged her not to scare them so much. While two servants continue to understand whether their mistress is alive, our main character approaches the golden mirror and wonders what is going on around him and what kind of ghost dressed him up so strangely. Next, the guy continues his little investigation. He hopes that everything that is happening around is just his hallucinations and not some legendary isekai rebirth in another world. After a couple of moments, the course of events accelerates until the lady comes to her senses. The guy apologizes to the lady because he could not think clearly at the moment of his awakening, because he saw two balls. Lady Jane, continuing to listen to the explanation of our main character, tells him that he can relax because everything happened very unexpectedly, so she was a little stunned by it. But her remark does not end there. Straightening her hair, she adds, asking the gentleman how he could allow someone to pursue him and then even traumatize him so much. Pointing a finger at himself, the guy asks Lady Jane if he was really persecuted and traumatized. In his opinion, no one could dare to do such an act. In response to this, Lady Jane tells our protagonist that yesterday, her servants found him unconscious near her house. He was covered in bruises and was hung like a towel on a statue. Then this girl with magnificent forms continued by saying that, be that as it may, after just one night spent here, the benefactor was still able to recover a little from his wounds. Lady Jane continued by telling our main character that he shouldn't worry about anything because he can rest, so she can pay him at least a little. The guy's attention was a little distracted. Then something strange happens. This girl hands our main character a banana and tells him that he held this thing very tightly in his hands and did not want to let go of it at all. Literally a second later, we understand that in fact, this girl was not holding a banana in her hands, but a brand new iPhone 17 Ultra. Our main character was discouraged by this turn of events. The girl continued by suggesting that this thing is very important for our main character, and when the doctor was treating her, she took this thing for safekeeping in order to give it later. This item was pulled out of the guy's hands because it was necessary to start treatment. At that moment, Xiong Yang realized that his brand new iPhone 17 Ultra looks like a banana to people. While our main character was looking at the banana with amazing interest, or at least that's how Lady Jane saw it, she began to leave, telling the gentleman to take a good rest and later the medicine would be waiting for him. Meanwhile, our main character could not get enough of the fact that in the world he found himself in, there was a mobile phone, despite the fact that it was strange and cool. Then he began to check the signal, but the true appearance of the phone was visible only to this guy. Everyone else saw a banana instead of a phone. Two girls watching this scene wondered why this crazy person was pointing his finger at a banana. While these people who did not understand the coolness of this banana phone looked in amazement, Our main character, judging by his face and visual effects, found something extremely interesting there that caught his eye. Literally a moment after this, some strange old man with thick long hair and a red robe gets out of this guy's phone and crashes straight into this guy's face. After this weird little old man punches the guy in the face, he does a triple somersault in the air, and then does the ultimate soft superhero landing, just like in Marvel. Immediately after this strange mini old man lands, he looks at our main character and greets the guy, calling him player number 101. He has a broom in his hands. Apparently, our main character is not one of those who will tolerate such antics, which is why a moment later, this old man receives a powerful headshot with his phone in the head, thereby interrupting him. However, it doesn't end there. The guy rushes at this old man and shouts that no one has ever dared to touch his face. The old man has crossed all boundaries and he will make him regret it. A strange mini old man, continuing to receive blow after kick in the face, asks our main character to stop. He asks him to stop so that he can listen to him to the end. But despite the requests of this old man, the series of blows continues. The guy says that in this life only he should have been listened to, and he should not listen to anyone. The old man asks him if he has seen something like that. After this old man asks our main character if he has seen some old man get out of his phone before, the guy still stops abruptly because this question makes sense. The course of events is interrupted and we continue when we see the hands of our main character holding out Lipton green tea to this old man. Our main character asks the elder to take this tea. In response to this, the beaten old man sitting on the table replies that he has never seen a player treat an instructor mentor like that, because there is no professionalism or ethics in his attitude. Hearing this remark, our main character got angry and told this old man not to turn his nose up too much, because he never served tea to anyone, not even his own father. During his lifetime, this guy was fabulously rich, so he asks the old man to simply name the amount he needs so that he can simply send him back home to the real world. This old man calmly listens to this guy's order, and then he drinks his green tea and answers the guy that, "Alas, this is impossible." The puzzled guy asks why this is impossible. The old man answers the guy that now he is in a 36D somatosensory game called The War Song of a Prosperous World. When he sees the miracle of prosperity of this era and bows to him, he can return. Having heard this rather detailed instruction, our main character asks this old man what this miracle of prosperity is. He asks how and when he can see him in order to bow. The old man, turning into a Lego figure, replies that the guy has two options to choose from. The first is to complete quests in the system, accelerating the pace of history in order to achieve an era of prosperity, while completing tasks with rewards. Having not listened to the second version, the Lego figure of our main character asks this old man a rather reasonable question. For what reason should he listen to him, and even more so, trust him? The grandfather continues saying that the second option is that he will ignore him, but he will never be able to return home again, and most likely he will be thrown into some kind of prehistoric dynasty. The Lego figure of the guy who is being eaten by the crocodile objects by saying that he is not going to die so early, which is why he tells this mini old man that he is choosing the first option. Micro-grandfather tells the guy that this is a smart choice because it is assumed that his current identity is a young guy Xiong from Beishi who lost his ancestral home, which made his father very angry. Moreover, the person into whom our main character moved after an absurd death has a very bad reputation in this world. Moreover, he is an extremely wasteful person. Our surprised main character continues to listen to this miniature grandfather. He cannot help but notice that this new friend of his is quite a capable fellow, which cannot be said by his appearance. Meanwhile, the crippled grandfather continues to tell the guy that now he is not only penniless and homeless, but he also owes 10 million taels, and if he leaves here, he will die. The old man also gives a friendly reminder that he should not even think about getting into a fight with any NPCs, because he will never be able to defeat them. After listening to all this, our main character wonders if he really moved into a person who has never seen the world, because he was born in order to be able to spend money and earn it AFK. After the micro-grandfather listens to this strange speech of a guy devoid of meaning, he explains to this stupid rich man that making money is not the same as spending it. But the guy says in response to this that for him it's the same thing, because after spending money he will earn it. He asks the old man to just wait and see how he gets 10 million in a few minutes. After listening to this overly confident statement from this guy, the old man makes a grimace just like Albert Einstein and tells him directly that in his opinion he is too confident in himself. The old man agrees to wait and moves back into the phone, despite the fact that the guy beat him mercilessly. The resident of the phone says that the elder cannot be unrighteous. A task was sent to him on the phone. After this miniature old man gets into the phone, the guy immediately decides to look at the main screen. He actually notices that two strange applications appear there. The guy opens the application and finds a task in it, which is to take a photo of Lady Jane in the shower without anyone noticing. For completing this task, he will receive 50 initial gold, and as punishment for refusing, he will be struck by lightning. After reading the first task, our main character throws his iPhone 17 Ultra against the wall and asks the old man what kind of bullshit is this that doesn't look like a task. A couple of moments after the guy throws his phone against the wall, he leaves his chambers and loudly shouts to this grandfather that if he wants to command him, he can only dream. However, everything that was written in this text was the pure truth, because as soon as this guy took a couple of steps and abandoned the task, he was struck by a powerful bolt of lightning on a clear day. After the blow was struck, the guy immediately fell from his feet onto his butt and was shaking all over. Apparently, he did not believe that lightning could strike him on such a clear day. Immediately after this guy manages to survive the lightning strike, he takes out his phone and starts yelling at him, asking this damn old man if he wanted to kill him with this punishment. In response to this, the guy receives an answer that the players who challenge the rules of this game will really die. He asks him to think about the first 100 players. Their tricks did not help any of them survive. At this moment, our main character understands that he should not violate the rules of this game under any circumstances, which is why the course of events moves to where Lady will most likely take water procedures. As expected, these two maids turn out to be two servants of this Lady Jane. They inform her that her water is ready for her to take her water treatments. She frees her maids. Next, we watch as Lady Jane herself, having released her maids, slowly approaches the source of hot water and begins to slowly immerse her foot there to begin the procedures. While this girl continues to take water procedures, we learn about her that she got engaged to a general from this city 6 months ago. After the engagement, her fiancé immediately died on the battlefield. Thus, the general with whom she became engaged left her completely alone after he left the world of the living. Apparently, this girl often remembered this general during her days. That day, she brought incense to the Daoming temple to return lunch, but several villains saw her without the servant who was supposed to accompany her. They began to behave obscenely, but the master intervened. It was this guy who managed to protect Lady Jane after the scoundrels caught her without an escort. For her, he was a benefactor no matter what the outside world would say about him. The girl continued to think about our main character who saved her that day. She was glad that she had the opportunity to repay him. At this time, the guy introduced video recording on his Banana 8K resolution. But it only looked like this from the outside. While the guy was doing this quest, he was indignant that this old pervert was forcing him to do very dirty work with the help of tasks. The guy was so uncomfortable with this very strange quest that his hands began to shake violently. But despite this, the guy still caught a good shot and was already pressing the button. Immediately after the photo button was pressed, a very powerful flash began to come from the phone, according to all the canons of surprises. This time, this flash was visible to everyone around. The guy's face at the moment when he realized that his location was revealed because of the damn flash in his iPhone 17 Ultra, he realized that he was in big trouble, and his face spoke about it. While this Lady Jane thought it was lightning, she asked her servant Xiao Shu to see if it was raining outside, and the guy at that moment realized that he forgot to turn off the damn flash. After this lady went outside with her servant, they realized that there was not even a hint of rain outside. But the girl's attention at that moment was attracted by some trinket on the ground. Immediately after this, Lady Jane approached this trinket, after which she immediately picked it up and realized that all this was the trick of our main character, because it belonged to him. Meanwhile, our main character, having run as far as possible, sent the photograph he had taken to this dirty old man. He wrote back to him saying that he received the photograph and the guy did a 100% job. Immediately after this magical phone congratulated our main character on his first completed task, for which he receives the promised 50 starting units of gold in a bag. But not even a second had passed in front of this guy, and a second notification appeared. It warned our main character that he would be transported to the world of dreams in exactly 0 seconds. Immediately after this, the course of events is abruptly transferred to some city that is all blazing with flames, and our main character, appearing there, tries to save his skin by escaping. But all the problems do not end there, because in addition to the fire that swept through this city, we are watching some rider on a black horse who moves freely through this chaos. Our main character, who has been trying to escape from this chaos all this time, suddenly stops and notices this strange horseman, who suddenly begins to move towards him. After a couple of moments, we and our main character have a view of a terrible picture. Some old samurai with samurai armor and a huge sword with which he is about to strike is rushing towards us. This courageous-looking horseman easily closes the distance to our main character, after which he makes a sweeping blow to our main character. This is the last thing he saw. But all this ends abruptly when we realize that all this was just a very bad dream. The guy suddenly wakes up and jumps up in horror because he was just killed in this nightmare. This nightmare was so realistic and believable that you can see the cold sweat of horror on the guy's face even after waking up. He continues to smell the clear smell of blood. Looking out the window in surprise, the guy doesn't understand why everything is so realistic, because this is just a game in which he has to complete tasks, and such a cruel incident definitely shouldn't happen. A couple of moments later, the anxious thoughts of our protagonist are interrupted after a waifu comes into his chambers, and seeing that he has woken up, tells him that his breakfast is already ready. However, after this woman, having not heard the answer, decides to go deeper into the chambers, she does not find our main character in bed. Apparently, he has already managed to get away. The course of events takes us to the street on which this guy, walking freely, wonders how he can make money while staying at home, because he first needs to go out for this. Continuing to walk to the local market and look at everything, Xiongyang understands that this ancient business is very old-fashioned and boring, and if someone founded entertainment places here, he would get rich. While a brilliant idea came to the mind of our main character, and he continues his movement. But after walking a few steps, he abruptly stops and sees something that caught his eye. The target of the guy's gaze is the girls. He understands that these waifus in the old style of clothing are true beauty, and no celebrity from the real world can compare with such innocent and real beauties. It is for this reason that our main character decides to approach these two beauties and say hello to them. Approaching one of them, he calls them beauties and starts a conversation. Next, the guy tries to use all his charisma characteristics to increase his chances. He asks these ladies if they are alone and invites them to go somewhere together in the evening. But we don't hear these girls' response to Xiongyang's proposal because he is interrupted by his phone, which is depicted as a banana for everyone. It begins to vibrate strongly, attracting attention to itself. However, this phone in the shape of a banana is not going to stop with just vibration. Then it begins to sharply rush towards these girls. All this together creates a very suspicious picture. Finding himself in an awkward position, the guy reaches for his phone and says to the ladies that some old man is bothering him again with his tasks. He tries to calm down his phone. However, after this guy tries to reach for his pants, these two adorable waifus suddenly close their eyes and start screaming. One of them throws the entire contents of the plate in the guy's face. These two girls run away closing their eyes, and the guy, wiping his face, shouts after them that they got it all wrong. And besides, the guy will have to pay for all the food of these girls. While this most ridiculous situation continues to gain momentum, the iPhone 17 Ultra in the hands of this guy begins to vibrate again. Apparently, he again received some kind of task from his grandfather. Now Xiongyang has nothing to lose. He takes out his phone with indignation that this fucking old man again probably sent him a disgusting task, but the task is just to go have a drink. After the guy fully reads the text of the poisoned man's message to him, he is clearly puzzled, because the whole role of the task is for him to go have a drink and have a blast. After a moment, Xiongyang realizes that this is exactly what he needs now, making a face of anticipation. He adds saying that he even knows where he wants to go in this case. At this point, the course of events moves to the location where the Pavilion of Intoxicating Love is located. This is the largest entertainment venue in the city. People cannot even get here without having a fortune in their pocket. A moment later, the frame lowers a little and we observe the pavilion itself and the crowd that is gathered around it. Two men inform the beauties from this place that they came to play Valorant. After a couple of moments, all this city bustle and crowd conversations are interrupted by the fact that everyone is silenced by a white noble horse who rears up and announces his presence to everyone. Our main character turns out to be sitting behind this pretty good carriage. Everyone around is in shock and wondering if anyone knows who this is. Moreover, he himself is sitting behind the wheel of his carriage. Next, our main character, having finally arrived at his destination, stops his carriage and begins to confidently get out of it in order to go to relax completely. This guy clearly took care of looking like a Giga Chad. Inspecting the buildings, he concludes that it is quite good, almost like his building for holding parties in real life. Xiongwon understands that just the view is not enough for this reason. He decides to inspect everything inside. Approaching the pavilion, he throws his whip to the employee and asks him to park his car in the VIP parking lot. This guy apparently forgot that he is not in the real world, and he did not come in a Ferrari, which is why the employee who received the whip looks at the guy puzzled and does not understand what car he is talking about. Next, our main character confidently goes inside and tells the manager of this place to prepare a separate room for him and bring several girls there who will serve him and show him local customs. The appearance of our main character in this place instantly starts a series of conversations among the crowd. Everyone is wondering if this guy died a few days ago. Many have heard that his family received a strong blow from him. A couple of moments later, we watch as one of the workers of this pavilion approaches the younger mistress and tells her that the man who just arrived here seems to be the same guy. Apparently, the reputation of the owner of the pass body is very popular. Junior mistress immediately calls the guy a shameless person. She wonders how their family can have anything to do with such a person. However, Xiangyang himself apparently has no idea about his reputation in this place. He asks the girl why she is standing here, and why they don't have girls here. They answer him that there is one nuance. A couple of moments later, the military girl shows this guy a nuance in the form of a parchment that contains all his debts to this pavilion of intoxicating love. The guy is simply shocked. Seeing the amount of 15 million local currency, he asks if this is true. The maid replies that all these years he treated them like family. That's why this price is for family and friends. A couple of moments after our main character hears the answer from this girl, his brain completely turns off and is immersed in mathematical operations about what his debts are for. Reading these debts, he reads what he owes them for cutting his beard, new clothes, and other things. The guy tears up the paper because he doesn't even have a damn beard, and there's clearly something wrong with these bills. Then a blonde man with very lush long hair appears in front of us. He immediately recognizes brother Ian. He says that he must save his brother's face by paying his bill. In response to this, one of the maids says that since Lord Seelin is asking for this, then of course they should give the other party a face. But the bill is a very serious amount. This is a lot of money. However, this blonde doesn't care at all. Without even hearing about the amount of debt in question, he gives a receipt to the maid and simply tells her to take it so that he forgets about it. Our main character immediately approaches his savior and, hugging him, thanks him for this because it was quite loyal. He also says that he will someday return the debt to him with interest. In response to this, the blonde says that there is no need to repay the debt. If it crawls under his crotch, then the need to repay the debt will instantly disappear, like fidget spinners from a trend. After the uttered phrase of this blonde with long flowing hair, these two continue to laugh and smile as if they were best friends since childhood, and nothing like that happened. But after a couple of moments, our main character realizes that he heard something strange from this guy. It is for this reason that he begins to look at him puzzled to understand what's going on. But our main character didn't hear it at all because the blonde, asking him if he understood, tells him that in this case he can repeat the condition he said one more time. Immediately after he receives silence in response to this, the blonde stood right in the guy's face, just like in a UFC battle of glances, and repeats that he must crawl under his crotch in order to get rid of the debt. The situation is heating up more and more every second. Our main character takes this guy by the collar, and the crowd around begins to discuss that a fight may soon occur between them. But this incredibly arrogant blonde continues to ask Ian if he still thinks that he is the same young master who could command the wind and cause rain. He smiles maliciously. The blonde continues to put moral pressure on Xiangyang, telling him to come to his senses because his family abandoned him, and now he is a poor lost dog, and he just wants to show the dog its place. But while this barrage of insults continues to rain down on the guy, he continues to keep his cool and continue his mewing session. He fearlessly looks into the eyes of this pompous bastard. A couple of moments after that, this blonde stood away from the guy and, spreading his legs wider, told the guy to act or otherwise get out of here like an insignificant dog. Instead of succumbing to provocation, this guy simply grins and asks everyone around why they, being ancient people, love to quarrel so much and always get into fights. Next, our main character says that in order to get rid of a debt of 15 million, crawling under the crotch is a very good offer, and very profitable. In response to this, the blonde lifts his robe to show his legs and declares that the guy knows better, and if he hurry up, he will give him a lot more money than he promised. This guy's face at this moment is full of joy, because he is 100% sure that after our main character crawls under his crotch, he will feel what public humiliation is. The young lady who is watching this from the side is surprised because she did not expect that Xiangyang is not only unscrupulous, but also useless, because he is ready to agree to endure humiliation for money. Immediately after the younger mistress and her assistant understand that our main character is ready to humiliate himself in order to get money, she says that she can no longer look at this and begins to leave. And our main character, meanwhile, pointing his finger at himself, asks the arrogant blonde in front of him if he really wants him to bow his head and do what he is asking for. The guy, without giving this guy a chance to answer his question, makes a sharp and unexpected blow to this guy's crotch and tells him that he'd better say hi to his dumbbells instead. The crowd simply cannot believe their eyes, because they were all 100% sure that Xiangyang would simply endure humiliation in order to get money. Even the younger madam turns around in surprise. Meanwhile, the blonde himself, who longed for our main character to humiliate himself after receiving this critical blow, begins to shake and tell the guy that he is a dirty little rat. Immediately after our main character, having done a good deed, warned the world from people like this blonde, he immediately headed to the window as quickly as possible in order to escape from this place. This guy, who still couldn't come to his senses after he received a powerful blow, raised his hand, which was still shaking in the direction where our main character ran away, and ordered everyone to catch him. A moment later, we move to our main character who is running with his heels sparkling so that justice does not overtake him. The pavilion workers are doing their best to catch up with him. The pavilion workers shout to Xiong to stop immediately. The guy replies that he is not an idiot, so there is no way he will stop. He continues to run just like Usain Bolt. Apparently, this extreme jogging helped our protagonist's brain work even more efficiently, which is why he decides to turn into the alley in order to increase his chance of escaping persecution. But judging by the guy's face, he clearly becomes very uncomfortable after he runs into some alley without reading what it is before running in during the chase. Next, a powerful female scream is heard, and not just one, because in an attempt to confuse his pursuers, our main character runs into the area where the girls are taking water treatments. The guy is very embarrassed, but continues to escape. A few more minutes of our main character's escape pass, but his luck abruptly fails him because there is a dead end in front of him, and now he has nowhere else to run to get rid of the chase. Turning around, the guy tries to catch his breath from such a long escape. Listening, he hears that his pursuers have almost caught up with him. Moreover, they know that there is a dead end here, and he will not be able to escape. Shu-won understands that he has absolutely nothing to lose. Precisely for this reason, he comes as close to the wall as possible in order to try to somehow secretly get away from these men armed with sticks. A couple of moments after this, something unexpected happens. Before our protagonist is found by his pursuers, a wall breaks down right under him and someone's hands appear. Next, these hands that suddenly appeared right behind our main character grab his legs. The guy looks down, puzzled to understand what the hell this is. Another moment passes and the face of our main character urgently decides to get acquainted with the asphalt, because the hands that were near his feet sharply pull him into the unknown. Apparently our main character is lucky today, because before these evil men from the pavilion would find our main character. There were a couple of seconds left. The guy continues to be pulled into the wall. These pavilion workers, who have 100 IQ between them, finally decide to look around the corner to find the one they were pursuing. But the trace of our main character has long gone cold. These two klutzes are simply in shock. After they find absolutely no one, they cannot believe their eyes because they just recently saw a guy run right here. Next, we observe that our main character was saved from pursuit by some strange person who was dressed in a dark robe. She covered his mouth with her hand so that he would not make unnecessary sounds. Moving to the young mistress, we hear one of the servants telling her that this Mr. Xiong is not so bad after all. At least he has not humiliated himself. But using tricks is still disgusting. Further, this girl, continuing to move with her subordinates, wonders how she can even marry a man like him, because he has a very dubious reputation. In response to this, the servant of the younger mistress informs her that the family of our protagonist is now in decline. She asks her if she thinks that he will come to seek refuge with them by asking to marry. The young mistress replies that this bastard will not dare, and if he does come, she will personally break his legs. Moreover, she will take the opportunity and break off the engagement between them. Next, we watch as this blonde man, who probably decided on inheritance, scolds two of his employees for allowing our main character to escape. He calls them idiots and cretins. Apparently, this guy was so engrossed in the fact that he was scolding his employees who have 100 IQ between them, he did not at all notice the approach of a mysterious person dressed in a long black robe. A couple of moments later, this mysterious figure approached this blonde and told him that he was given a simple task, but in the end he screwed up. The blonde replied that he did nothing wrong and was just distracted. But this mysterious man understands that he is being lied to. He threatens him with a hidden blade just like in Assassin's Creed, and tells him that deep down he knows very well what he really did. The blonde immediately gives back and tells his milord that he was wrong and asks for forgiveness. In response to this mysterious man tells the loser not to forget his identity and who gave him all this. With every centimeter like a sharp blade getting closer and closer to the blonde's throat, he says more and more. He says that he will no longer dare to cause any problems to his head. Next, this mysterious figure releases this loser and, leaving here, warns him that he will postpone the master's plans. He must be ready to accept cruel punishment. A moment later, we again move to our main character who slaps his savior in the face and tells him to finally let him go. His savior turns out to be a little boy. With the help of a slap, our main character removes this boy's hood, seeing the face of his savior Xiong Yang, ask him who the hell he is and why he saved him in the first place. Then we look at the savior himself. This is an ordinary curly-haired boy with thick eyebrows. He calls the guy a master and tells him that this is Chuan Bao. Most likely he knows the previous owner of the body. After the little boy tries to remind our main character who he is, Xiong Yang replies that his name means nothing to him. Moreover, he asks him why he looks like a beggar. A little boy sitting opposite our main character asks the young master if he has amnesia. Rubbing his eyes, he wonders how his master cannot remember him. The shaggy boy continues by telling Xiong Yang that their house was destroyed after the owner left them. After spending so much time looking for the master, he began to look like a beggar because he should have found him sooner. The tearful little boy continues telling his master that when he heard that his master was seen in a brothel, he immediately went there to check if it was true. Chuan Bao begins to roar. He believes that he should have immediately guessed that the owner was in the brothel because he usually liked to go there. He asks for forgiveness for being very late. But the guy, looking at all this, reacts by covering his face with his hand and asking his subordinate to relax because everything is fine, and he doesn't have to scream so loudly because of this. The conversation between these two continues. Our main character asks the little boy if the old man left him anything before his death. For example, documents for land, a Genshin Impact account, or at least jewelry. In response to this, his little subordinate tells him that their family has run out of absolutely all the money, and a guy named Lin Ju is to blame for all this, so you shouldn't count on money. Plunging into the past, we understand that before this blonde was an ordinary servant who could only constantly flatter the past owner of our protagonist's body. But one day he decided to publicly take off his pants. After the young master publicly humiliated this Ling Ju, he became angry because of this. He began to deliberately involve the young master in gambling, allowing him to lose the entire family fortune. Our main character, listening to this story, is very surprised after he hears about the episode when he took off this guy's pants, thereby publicly humiliating him, thereby angering him. After a couple of moments, our protagonist's servant makes a snide comment that the master most likely forgot that at that time, Lin Ju was kicked out of the palace. Apparently, he is trying to hold back his laughter. Next, our main character comes to an amazing conclusion. Immediately after this, as he comes up with this, he wonders if that loser was one of the eunuchs. A couple of moments after this, the conversation between these two is interrupted by the owner of the house, in whose territory these two were hiding, coming out. He orders his guards to seize the thief on his sight. A little boy informs his master that the owner of this yard has found them, so they need to get out through the dog hole as soon as possible to avoid problems. It's not worth telling Xiong Yun twice. Immediately after he hears good advice, he begins to crawl on all fours towards the exit in order to leave the guarded area of the yard. But after a moment, our main character stops abruptly and turns to the little boy with a suspicious face and asks him what he just called this hole. In response to this, a little boy or a subordinate of our main character shouts to him that they don't have time to explain this, which is why he kicks his master right in the ass. Immediately after our main character receives a blow to a delicate place from his own subordinate, he immediately gets out of the protected territory of the South-South through a dog hole and lies face down. At this point, the course of events abruptly ends and accelerates, and we continue when these two reach a city street on which retail trade is actively carried out. Walking through this market area, it is simply impossible to come across sellers who really want to sell something. For example, this man is selling delicious hot noodles, at least according to him. Having walked a little further, we also notice another merchant, but this time he provides a service in the form of making cakes to order. He sells fragrant cakes, buns, and pancakes. Some old wanderer is interested in the offer and orders 3 buns. Immediately receiving his order, our main character, along with his subordinate, cannot take their eyes off these buns. After a couple of moments using critical thinking, Xiang Yun, looking at his subordinate, realizes that he is looking at these buns somehow strangely. He asks the little boy if he is hungry. In response to this, the little boy turns to his master and tells him that Chuan Bao is by no means hungry, but his face says absolutely the opposite. Our main character is not stupid, so he understands that his subordinate is simply embarrassed to say about it, which is why we see in the next frame how he buys 3 buns from this merchant. Chuan Bao immediately swoops down on these buns, devouring them with incredible appetite. He thanks the master for the food and tells him that he has not eaten decent food for many days while he was in search. Watching his subordinate eat, our main character tells Chuan Bai to take his time and eat more slowly. In response to this, the boy hands his master a bun and tells him to join the feast. Looking at the bun, our main character only thinks that in the blink of an eye, 50 tiles of the system reward were spent. No matter what era he is in, if you don't have money, you won't be able to do anything. Clutching his phone in his hands, our main character intends to get rich and see who will dare to chase him after he becomes a rich man who, if desired, can turn this place upside down. Meanwhile, Chuanbao watches in surprise as his master does not eat at all and continues to hold a banana in his hands. He concludes that everything that happened to him greatly stunned him. After a couple of moments, the little boy decides to break the silence by telling his master that, by the way, the old gentleman before his death told him that he would leave him something that would help him rise. In response to this information, our main character is very surprised, after which he asks his subordinate why the hell he is telling such important information so late. Hearing such a tone, the little boy replies that he just remembered that the things they need are in their ancestral home, which our main character lost to Linju. The course of events at this moment breaks off and we continue, when time accelerates until night falls on the same day. The location changes to the family home of our main character's family. Looking at this house from the bushes, our main character understands that his old house was quite large, and his subordinate compliments by saying that this is not just a family house, they had a dozen more huge houses in the outer city. When Xiongyang hears about this, he immediately asks Chuanbai if he lost them too. In response to this, Chuanbai tells his master that he has finally recovered because he remembered this moment. At this point, the guy realizes that the system has given him the task of taking what belongs to him back and then reselling the house, so that he won't have to do shitty tasks for a while. Then these two understand that they need to get into the western wing of their family home unnoticed at any cost. Right now, the stealth mission for these two begins, and they begin to run through the bushes. While running through the bushes, our main character apparently notices something out of the corner of his eye. This forces him to look to the side in order to understand what attracted his attention. Our main character sees how this blonde bastard tells the ladies that their Lord Tiju is in a bad mood, which is why they should serve him very well today to cheer him up. And not only... When our main character sees this scene, a contemptuous grimace is drawn on his face because only one question appears in his head. Aren't these girls ashamed to serve this loser eunuch? Things speed up until the two reach the Xiong family's ancestral home, a secluded place rumored to be haunted and only visited by a few. Xiongyang notices that his subordinate stops following him. Huang Bai says that he does not dare to get close to the family's treasures, because in the West Wing there is a ghost woman who specializes in eating naughty children. But our main character doesn't care at all about the presence of some ghost woman, which is why he grabs Chuan Bai by the scruff of the neck and tells him that if he doesn't go with him, he will become a beggar ghost. Xiongyang begins his search. He asks the little boy if the old man told him where he hid the things in question. Chuanbao replied that he remembers that everything is hidden under the 8th tile in the 2nd row. After our main character receives a fairly accurate hint where something that can help him rise is located, he lifts the necessary tile and actually finds some kind of hidden chest. Immediately after our main character manages to discover what was left to him by his grandfather, he picks up this chest and is surprised that it was about such a small box. After the guy picks up this small chest, he immediately decides to see what is inside. His first find is a silver ticket that is equal to 1,000 taels. As soon as these two find something that seems useful, for example this ticket, which is equal to money, they begin to rejoice and spin around holding each other's hands. The guy calls his father amazing. After a couple of moments, the guy decides to continue looking at what his grandfather left him. The next find is extremely strange. Xiong Yun, examining it, wonders if it is jade. Nevertheless, it can probably be sold. While our main character continues to examine the incomprehensible trinket, his little subordinate finds a letter and informs the young master that he has found a letter that he needs to read. The guy immediately begins to read the letter. It says that if he reads this letter, then the one who wrote it has probably already died, and his mother died too early due to the fact that he had a difficult life. He left him money. Moreover, the letter also talks about jade, with which, judging by the letter, the guy will need to go to the Xiao family if something happens, because his father had a long-standing friendship with Uncle Xiao, and when he sees the jade, they will help him. The letter continues by saying that after the guy shows this jade to the Xiao family, he can marry the daughter of their family. At the end, it says that Xiong Yang will live a good life. After our main character finishes writing a letter, he goes to the box to see what else is left there, but when he approaches it, he sees some strange paper imitations of people. Chuanbao informed our main character that these are all pictures that our main character drew in his childhood. This means that the old gentleman kept these drawings as a real treasure. But our main character was only surprised by the fact that he drew it all so ugly. Even a little boy could understand that it looked like that because the young master was still too young. Chuanbao continued saying that he heard the maids talk about how as soon as the master returned home, he always accompanied the young master, drew, played, and flew a kite with him. Telling this, the little boy begins to cry. He does not understand how this could even happen. Everyone in the Xiong family used to be very friendly and cheerful, but now this has not happened for a long time. Our main character simply cannot stand by and watch his little subordinate cry, which is why he comes up to him and puts his hand on his head to calm him down. Then Xiong asks this little boy if he is right that there is no one left from this family, because he is still next to him and they are together. Looking at the big town from the destroyed family home, our main character declares that he will return everything that belongs to him. Moreover, he will definitely revive his Xiong family, returning it to greatness. A couple of moments after our main character says all these strong intentions, he picks up the jade and asks who he has a marriage contract with from the Xiao family, because he has no idea. Chuanbao answers his young master that he has a marriage contract with the eldest young miss of the Xiao family. She is the most beautiful girl in the capital. In real life, she looks much more beautiful than she is portrayed. The boy continues saying that he heard that this lady has very wide orbits, so she will probably be able to give birth to our main character a son, and if he marries her, he will undoubtedly be infinitely happy. Our main character, having listened to all this from his little subordinate, clearly did not appreciate what he said. He only asked him with the most serious face from whom he had heard enough of all this. A couple of moments later, we are transported a little further than the destroyed family home. Two men are sure that they saw a strange light in the west wing. They assume that it is a ghost. Meanwhile, our main character decides that it is time for them to leave here and will return tomorrow. Meanwhile, he finds himself above the Xiong mansion. He misses his father a little when he reads the letter. He wonders how his old man is doing. After a couple of moments, our main character remembers that he has a mobile phone, and he can simply take it out and call the mini old man, which is exactly what he does by pulling out his phone. Our main character, in all seriousness, starts calling somewhere hoping that his father, who is most likely long dead, will answer him. But surprisingly, they pick up the phone and he greets his father. But the guy quickly realizes that on the other end of the line it is not his father, but this old man. He informs our main character that he can only contact him, no matter what number is dialed. However, the conversation does not end there, and the old man reminds our main character that this mission to return the ancestral home lasts only 7 days, and if the guy is late, his corpse will lie on the street. Apparently, upon hearing this news, our main character is very upset. He was being watched all this time by Lady Jane, who suggests that this damn banana that he is holding is probably very important to him. The course of events on this comical scene breaks off, and we continue when a new day comes. We hear our protagonist's little subordinate asking him to hurry up before it's too late. The two continue to head towards their destination, and the pace of events accelerates until we reach the very mansion of the Zhao family, in which the letter from the late father of our protagonist said. A moment later, moving inside this mansion of the Zhao family, we see in front of us 3 waifus who are simply crazy about the beauty of some guy whom they suddenly saw. Before us is a man with long, luxurious hair named Qi Hongyun. It was his appearance that caused a very strong reaction among these girls who could not restrain their emotions from the beauty of this guy. With the appearance of this guy, rumors also appear that he must have arrived at the Xiao family to propose marriage. The Qi family is strong and influential. A good union will surely come out. A couple of moments later, we watch as young Miss talks about how this young gentleman is already home. She asks her if she will come out long to greet him in person. At the moment, in front of us is Xiaolin. After she heard the mention of young Master Qi from her maid, she blushed heavily and looked away. The maid immediately noticed this. But after a moment, she still answered her maid that she should not be impolite with guests, so she definitely should go out and greet the guest who came to their mansion. A few moments later, we watch as the newly arrived Mr. Kui, who has the appearance of a Korean idol, greets Uncle Xiao standing in front of him who meets him at Ling Air. But after a couple of moments, this rather touching and unremarkable meeting is interrupted by the loud clatter of hooves of our protagonist's already familiar white horse, which rushes here at full speed. Our main character, as if nothing had happened, rushes straight to Uncle Xiao, who is standing next to Mr. Qi. He, on the contrary, shouts to them without getting up from his horse that they should keep aside and get out of the way. But after another moment, we understand that our main character is doing this all unintentionally, trying to control his horse. He shouts to these people that his horse has gone crazy and he cannot control it. However, these two notice this mad horse along with our main character too late. When there are literally a few seconds left before the collision, misunderstanding is visible on their faces. Literally a moment later, our main character's mad horse breaks through the entrance to this mansion, and these two scatter to the sides, and our main character flies into the mansion with them. A couple of moments later, the youngest madam herself came out to this noise and couldn't believe her eyes. Having run out to the noise, she immediately began to worry about her father, Uncle Xiao. But what this junior mistress saw after she came out into the main hall clearly surprised her very much. On her face, one could see the obvious outline of surprise at what was happening around. This surprise was caused by the fact that she saw our main character, who at that moment was flying straight towards her. She was shocked that she met him here. Meanwhile, our main character, while in flight, managed to begin to feel embarrassed because while in flight he had already looked at this young lady from head to toe. She looked pretty good. While the guy in flight was approaching this girl in slow motion, he realized that most likely this should be the girl he was supposed to marry, judging by the letter left by his father. With every second that passed, this scene was reminiscent of some scene from a drama, how two lovers would meet in such an unusual way, because Xiong Yun flew straight towards her, just like in dramas. Our main character understood that if he continued to fly to this younger mistress whom he should marry, then a simply magical moment would happen, and they would meet in a magical kiss. After our main character decided that this was a completely possible outcome, he smiled a lot because if this happens, it will be just perfect, like in a fairy tale. However, our main character was not in a romantic drama, so the cruel reality met him not with the lips of this lady, but with a hard shaft in this Xiao family mansion. The three maids who were standing three in a row at that moment simply could not believe their eyes, because how their mistress easily kicked an adult man with her foot was amazing. A couple of moments after we moved back to our main character, we saw perhaps the saddest scene in this manhwa. Our main character, having hit a pillar, lay almost lifeless on the steps. Meanwhile, the younger lady who sent our main character to bed quickly approached her father to ask him if he was okay. The father asked her what kind of man broke into their mansion. After a couple of moments, a little boy for whom our main character is a young master comes onto the stage. He runs straight to Xiong Yun to look at him and make sure he is alive. Having reached our main character as quickly as possible, this little boy told everyone around him that this was his young master of the Xiong family named Xiong Yan. The guy at that moment was not in the best shape. After Uncle Xiao and his youngest daughter heard the name of this guy who so strangely burst into their mansion, their faces immediately changed. The girl at that moment was clearly very angry. The course of events accelerates to the moment when our main character shows Uncle Xiao the very piece of jade that was mentioned in the letter. Uncle Xiao, carefully examining the jade piece, asked how Xiong Fei was doing. Our main character with a suspiciously happy face replies that his father is dead. Uncle Xiao asks in surprise how this happened and how he is also stunned by the face of our main character talking about his father's death. Having turned on the maximum charisma mode, our main character replies that before the moment of his death, his father asked him to come to him and tell him that he had a marriage with the Jiang family. As soon as our main character mentioned that his father left behind the news that a marriage had been concluded between their families, our main character's spider sense went off. Our main character's spider sense worked due to the fact that the younger lady flew at our main character in order to cut him into pieces with her sword, but the guy managed to stop the sword. After our main character miraculously managed to catch this sword and save his life, he shouted at the girl if she had gone crazy, because a little more and he could have died from a blow from this blade. Meanwhile, the daughter of the Xiao family couldn't believe that this pitiful dog actually had the courage to come here. She had no intention of removing the blade from his head. Even the father of this waifu was simply shocked by what she was doing. He sharply shouted at her to immediately put down her sword. He also asked her what happened to her today. In response to this, the younger mistress replied to her father that the guy she is trying to kill is a real trash. Besides, she saw him yesterday when he visited the brothel to have fun. This junior madam continued saying that this guy's father died just a few days ago, and he is already going to a brothel. This is what makes him worse than a dog. How could he even dare to come to them with a marriage proposal? Our main character, who continued to defend himself from losing his head, responded to this accusation that it was not what she thought. He asked everyone to give him the opportunity to explain everything. But this girl who continued to swing her sword in order to deal with this guy was difficult to convince. She was going to cut him so that he would go to hell. But he dodged like Neo from the Matrix. This scene was observed by the father of this girl and Mr. Chi himself, who came to marry her. The father asked him not to worry, even though his daughter was engaged in martial arts. She is very gentle and elegant. In response to this, the handsome man from the Chi family bowed to Uncle Xiao and told him that his wedding with this girl was decided by their family and his father. In addition, they simply could not live without each other. A couple of moments after this girl's father finished his conversation, he shouted to his daughter to immediately stop swinging her blade, because she cannot attack guests with a sword. Hearing this, our main character saw an opportunity to escape and immediately threw himself at the feet of this girl's father. He told Uncle Xiao that he must help him because he cannot betray his father's hopes. Meanwhile, this Uncle Xiao's daughter continued to be in combat mode. She shouted to her father about what they owed to their family. She was also surprised that they had some kind of agreement. In response to this, the father of this daughter was forced to answer that he really is not just in an agreement with our main character's family, he owes his entire life to the Xiong family, so the guy is not an ordinary guest. At this point, we are immersed in history. 20 years ago, the Ya dynasty was at war with the neighboring country of Shiyu, and when the war began to flare up more and more, Xiangyang's father and his entire detachment were placed right on the border of the two countries. Subsequently, among his entire squad, he was the only one who survived. But at that time, the father of our main character was wounded, and Uncle Xiong had to leave him for the sake of his salvation. But he did not do this, and did not abandon him. While this father of our main character was carrying Brother Xiao, he told him to hold out just a little longer. He carried him across the entire battlefield, and then took him to one of the military camps. As a result of this incident during the war, a strong friendship was formed between their families, and even then they exchanged military dog tags as a sign of betrothal between their future children, who would grow up. Looking out the window, Uncle Xiao continued saying that one of them was a Jew in the west, and the other in the east. And although they lived not so far from each other, they rarely had contact. But Brother Xiong was a very good person. Most likely the father of our main character simply did not want to bother him, but who would have imagined that he would die so unexpectedly? He squeezed his face with his hand and understood that he could not even see him for the last time. However, even despite all this touching story, Uncle Xiao's daughter still stood her ground and shouted that his daughter would never marry this brat, even if her life was threatened. After this junior lady made this speech, Mr. Qi approached her and told her that if he could not be with her during life, then he would accompany her after death. The girl was touched by this gentleman's speech. A couple of moments after our main character heard all this, he told Uncle Xiao that he was his only remaining relative, and if he abandoned him, then there would be no point in continuing to live. At this moment, Uncle Xiao could only burst into tears. He really wanted to just die now, on the one hand, his daughter whom he cannot let die, and on the other hand, a promise to his dear brother to whom he owes his life. Uncle Xiao continued to shed tears like a waterfall, and said that when he made such a promise, he never thought that all this could lead to such a sad set of circumstances. A couple of moments later, someone came onto the stage. A high-pitched child's voice was heard calling his daddy. Uncle Xiao and our main character were simply terribly wary after that, and the newlyweds were in bewilderment. Immediately after they showed us who came on stage, we saw in front of us a little girl who, in her thin voice, said that she had returned. Moreover, she was surprised by the presence of guests. Next, this little girl approached the guy with long, luxurious hair and called him Big Brother. Hang Yun told him that she was glad that he was also among the guests in this mansion. A couple of moments after this little girl looked around again, and this time the questions were created by Xiong Yun. She looked at him questioningly and asked who this elder brother was. Immediately after this, our main character, instead of answering this little girl on his own, he turned to Uncle Xiao to look at him with the maximum level of condemnation. A couple of moments after the awkward silence continued to hang throughout the entire Xiao family mansion, our main character finally decided to approach the father of the family in a terribly awkward manner. Immediately after this, our main character came as close as possible to Uncle Xiao. He told him that everything was in order, and he could wait as long as necessary to marry the daughter of the Xiao clan. As soon as our main character said this ill-fated proposal, he at the same moment received a headshot with a stool that flew at him at that very second. Uncle Xiao was simply shocked by this. Our main character was once again attacked by the younger mistress. She started kicking him and telling him that no one from their family would marry him, and he would not even dare to touch her sister. She was going to kill him today. While the attempts to kill our protagonist continued, our protagonist's little disciple was talking to this little daughter of the Xiao family. She asked him if he knew how to play the game of string. A couple of moments after this, the father of this family ordered everyone to stop this chaos. He told everyone that tomorrow there would be a competition among scientists, and whoever wins will marry his daughter. Some time passed after this announcement. The junior madam's maid asked the young miss to stop being angry. Moreover, she needed to eat a little in order not to damage her health. However, the young waifu continued to be very angry. She told her servant that she did not know what her stupid father was thinking about after he gave this shameless our main character a chance. The maid said that the master has his own worries, and if she wants to blame someone, then she should blame Xiong Yang. After so many years of having a contract, he suddenly showed up with a marriage proposal. The maid continued saying that despite everything that has already happened, she thinks that the master will most likely do everything to side with Master Qi so that she can marry him. She continued to speak in the language of facts that the academic selection is an official competition among all talents, in calligraphy and poetry, and Master Qi is the most famous in these disciplines. This junior Mrs. Maid's conclusion was that Master Chi would never lose to an uncouth boy like Xiong Yang. The young miss replied that if she thought about it, her maid would be right. After this waifu decided that she did not need to worry, she pointed her hands to the sides and joyfully declared that now she felt much better, and now it was time to eat. The maid replied that in that case she would cook her noodles. Moments later, we finally return to our main character. He believes that it was all cruel. Before marrying the lady and the Xiao family, he must prepare to be beaten every day. Then our main character decided to break the fourth wall and tell us that he should not be underestimated, because no matter whether she is a galloping Mustang or a rose with thorns, he can certainly tame her. A couple of moments later, our main character, who spoke to us for the first time, told us that he would train the young mistress. Looked at his student. He realized that he was clearly in the clouds. Looking at this guy, we understand that he has his head in the clouds because he simply cannot get out of his head how he played a game of shouting with the beautiful little daughter of the Xiao family. But our main character at this moment was already completely tired of the fact that his faithful student was not listening to him at all, which is why he shouted to him as loudly as possible to come to his senses. The boy was in shock. Next, our main character, after his student came to his senses, asked him where he constantly flies because he has been giggling since the very moment they left the Xiao family's house. Awkwardly scratching his head, this little boy replied that he was fine. He just needed to go somewhere. Then he asked his master to give him some money for his needs. Our main character did not ask unnecessary questions. He immediately reached into his pocket after giving his faithful little student a certain amount of money. He added that this is all he has. Having received the money, this little boy immediately ran away. Xiong Yun asked the guy if he had a place to live because if not, he could live with him. But Chuan Bao replied that they would talk about it later. But our main character, looking after his little student with the help of his critical thinking, understood that this child was behaving somehow very mysteriously. He was clearly hiding something from his master. After a couple of moments, our main character accidentally decided to look to the side. In the alley, he saw Master Chi hugging some girl. He asked her to stop crying. Continuing to cry, the girl said that it was easier said than done. When she heard from others that he went to another girl's house to ask for her heart, the guy interrupts, saying that he already said that it was just a farce. Next, this strange Mr. Qi said that he could only get this treasure after he penetrated the Xiao family. He told the girl that she can be calm because she is the only person in his heart. Our main character, filming this on camera, said that he knew that this guinea pig was only pretending to be the king of the seas. He realized that he needed to take a photo and show it to Miss Xiao. Let her know what kind of person she likes. However, our main character had very little secrecy. Immediately after he tried to take a photo, he was noticed. Master Chi turned sharply and asked the person watching who he was. Master Chi understood that under no circumstances should he come across anyone with his mistress. Immediately after that, he ran out of the alley to find the one who was watching him from this corner. However, nothing unusual happened on the street. This Chi master told his mistress that they should no longer meet until the deed was done. The mistress replied that they would do so. Next, we see our main character who, with the help of his amazing intelligence, could disguise himself as an ordinary blacksmith, which is how he became completely closed to this gentleman. But after a couple of moments, our main character felt like someone's eyes were boring into the back of his head. It was for this reason that he decided to turn around sharply to find out who was watching him. Turning back, our main character sees three pumped-up hairy men who are looking at our main character's body with great interest. They say to him, addressing him as a brother, that he has a very good body. The course of events stops and several days have already passed and academic selection has begun in the Ministry of Rights. Academic selection is the same as the modern Department of Cultural Affairs. It is responsible for rituals, music, sacrifices, and so on. This ministry has a prime minister, a vice minister, an imperial physician, and a member of the Council of Ministers who presides over the selection once a year. All this happens under the supervision of the royal family. A competition was organized. During this competition, officials would be selected through poetry competition and other disciplines. This made all the great geniuses of this capital flock here because it was a lucrative offer. Next, we watched as two poets began to recite various poems that were particularly unremarkable. One talked about the wind filling the earth with flowers, and the second about the new season of Fortnite. The crowd of listeners who were present at this competition enjoyed this poetic wave of these brilliant poems. After these two continued, they appreciated this poetically good poem. A couple of moments later, the girl in the outfit turned to Brother Wang and told him that her father asked him to supervise the competition. On this occasion, he had better listen to this. Next, we watched a guy with an appearance similar to General Jing Yuan from the game Honkai Star Rail. In fact, this is Governor Kang Wang. He replied that he would rather play Kuju than listen to this banal news. And this girl with black long hair with various jewelry was Deputy Inspector Princess Duan. She said that she was very optimistic about Mr. Chi Hang-yun's performance and even bought a collection of his poems. In response to this, the guy with white hair asked his deputy to continue listening while he took a little nap. In response to this, his deputy told him not to do that. A couple of moments after this, we suddenly saw that same blonde scoundrel named Ju Lin, who was watching these two referees from the side. One of them clearly wanted to play Chinese football. Next, my lord of this loser ordered him to keep an eye on Kang Wan and also record who he communicates with, not allowing him to meet with important ministers alone. The blonde did not understand why he was staring at this dissolute lord. A couple of moments later, this blonde's gaze was fixed on our main character, whom he accidentally saw in the crowd. He wondered what this guy was doing here, because just recently he had humiliated him again. Our main character at that moment did not understand at all what was happening around him. He had only a few questions in his head. Who he was, where he was, and what he was doing here. And most importantly, what was he doing? Then Zhongyang began to fall into a waterfall of tears. Who would have thought that the theme for the academic selection would be poetry, which he understands nothing about at all? When he studied, he only played League of Legends. Another moment later, we watched the memories of our main character. When he was not playing League of Legends or Fortnite, he was walking and having fun every time he had the opportunity. Our main character, returning to reality, hears an announcement from the presenter that the next group that will take part in this competition is Chi Hang-yun and our main character, Xiong Yang. After the name of Master Chi's idol was pronounced, everyone around was simply delighted with him, because finally Master Chi was on stage. They were all sure that Master Chi would be the winner. Even the girl who was one of the judges immediately woke up the main judge because of the appearance of this guy. She told Brother Wang that this was the #1 gifted scientist in the capital. After Master Chi entered the stage, he asked our main character who would be first. He also asked him if he would tell the germination or use more words, or maybe come up with something new. A couple of moments later, Master Chi heard in response from our main character that he didn't understand a damn thing, which is why he realized that it looked like he was the one who needed to start his performance. Immediately after Master Chi realized that his finest hour had come, he went on stage and began to recite some kind of poetic verse, this time about the coming of spring, bright flowers, and the release of Minecraft 2. After the girl judge heard this verse, she was amazed at how deep the poetic bass he gave. Spring was really felt in his story. But the chief judge did not even wake up at that moment. Meanwhile, Junior Madam understood that Hang-yun entered Taifu Academy at the age of 13, and in the same year he became the champion of the academic selection. He definitely cannot be compared with our main character. After this pompous guy continued his poem about the coming of spring in Minecraft 2, he, being very confident in himself, told our main character that now it was his turn to speak. Our main character at this moment was discouraged. He decided that in this case he could only turn to modern poetry, because he did not think that they had heard at least one of them, because they were all ancient. Our main character begins the poem. The time of day comes according to the mountain. The yellow river flows into the ocean. For those who know these dishes on the menu, every grain is the fruit of posting hard work. Absolutely everyone around them was shocked by the modern hit poetry uttered by our main character. Their reaction was simply unforgettable. They had absolutely no words to comment. But after a couple of moments, there was a loud laugh from all those who were here. Everyone commented on it as a dog trying to climb a wall. They believed that he was using the famous saying of the ancients to deceive everyone. Some of the crowd said that even a 3-year-old child could read this poem spoken by our main character. His youngest student stood up for our main character. He said that this is not true because he is 8 years old, and he cannot read. At the moment when our main character passed by his rival Master Chi, this master told him that he would never defeat him, and Ling Er was already his wife, and he lost. At this moment, the guy didn't understand what to do, because if he couldn't marry Xiaoling Er, he wouldn't have the money to return his ancestral home. But he really understood poetry because he spent a lot of time in KTV. If that KTV is Chinese karaoke, while the host was about to announce the results, our main character interrupted him, telling him to wait, because he had not finished his speech yet and was not ready for the announcement. Our main character began his poem again. The blue sky is waiting for the foggy rain, while he is near the river waiting for him. At this time, the haze spreads for thousands of miles above the river. This is exactly how our main character's poem sounded. The deputy judge was very surprised. She noticed that these two proposals of our main character were very good. Even the main judge finally woke up saying that it was quite good. But our main character continued his verse by saying that the moonlight was breaking through the dark darkness, and he finally saw her, because she was like blue and white porcelain floating in the meadow. Our main character continued his poem. This time he was ready for a wonderful ending with a beautiful face. He said that there was a smile on someone's face, and there were stars sparkling in his eyes. Even the younger lady, who was standing somewhere among the crowd, was very surprised by the verse that our main character said. Apparently, this girl realized that this verse was dedicated specifically to her. Even Master Chi was shocked by what he heard. He immediately asked our main character what kind of poetic style this was, because he had never heard this anywhere before. He was stunned. Xiong continued telling this Chi master that there are still many things that he has not heard of before, and what he has not read is called folk style. At this moment, cherry blossom petals flew behind him. Our main character continued by saying that first he read a few poems by his master to warm up his vocal cords, and if the wolf does not show his fangs, he will be called Snoopy. Now he will be serious. The guy continued by telling the crowd opposite that the next song would be dedicated to all his girlfriends and spectators. He began to sing that women are flowers in this world. They gently sway in the wind. While the guy continued to sing a song that was addressed to all women, two waifus listening to him were surprised that the poem could really be sung. The other noticed amazing words and a touching melody. Our main character at this moment clearly got the taste. He gave his whole soul, performing a song about how he will find the one he loves, in order to say goodbye to a lonely feeling. He gave his all 100%. Even the hearts of the men who listened to it sank, because these words were painful and unforgettable, and the other felt all his melancholy and worries. He was even ready to cry because of this song. Next, our main character began to interact with the crowd. He told everyone to wave their left hand and then their right, and repeat everything again. Because this song gave everyone happiness, he asked if everyone liked it. Absolutely everyone around responded that they liked the song. Both women and men with children liked it. They were completely delighted with such a cool performance by this talented guy. Only the younger lady told her father that this was complete nonsense, but he, in turn, replied that poetry and song are inseparable. Many ancient poems can also be sung, which is what this guy did. Uncle Xiao continued saying that Xiong words were unique and easy to understand. Although they were written in vernacular language, it was a very rare talent to combine yin and yang without losing melody. Immediately after Uncle Xiao explained this important point to his daughter, he announced to everyone around him that he was now ready to announce the winner of the academic selection or competition. Something unexpected happened. Our main character actually managed to win this unequal battle thanks to his intelligence and decision to use his advantages in the form of karaoke experience. And Mr. Chi at that moment was completely stunned, because he had just lost in a competition to someone who did not understand poetry at all. Moreover, he had been doing all this since he was 13 years old. A couple of moments after this, the crowd was simply crazy about our main character. They were delighted with the performance of this guy. Apparently his reputation was raised a little after this. They were so amazed by our main character that they didn't even notice how they trampled Master Chi with their feet. They considered our main character a great talent of this world. Everyone wanted to see our main character as much as possible, and Master Chi, who remained under the feet of the crowd, understands that this Xiong absolutely destroyed his moment of glory and left him as a non-entity. Next, we watched as two judges came out to our main character to shake his hand and congratulate him on his newfound victory. Xiong thanked the examiners. The chief judge told our main character that he had not heard anything new from the world of poems for many years. He understood that he had not heard it anywhere, so he asked our main character where he learned all this from. Our main character did not invent anything, which is why he told the main judge the absolute truth that he performed only due to the fact that he had been practicing for a long time at Chinese karaoke. But the chief judge was absolutely unclear after he heard where our main character practiced. He asked his assistant if he was talking about some kind of academy or something like that. The judge asked his assistant to find out everything about the poem of our main character. He told him that he would need to bring him this scroll. Our main character replied that he could do it without difficulty. After a couple of moments, we watched two strange people wearing a mask and Chinese straw hats. One asked the other if this gentleman had just sung. The second replied that these were all modern lyrics. Next, we watched as the scroll that our main character handed over was handed over and opened. It spoke of some conditions that applied to our main character and his family. Our main character continued to follow along with his little student. He looked at this ancient scroll with interest. He understood that first he must marry Miss Xiao, after which he must receive wealth. A couple of moments after this, our main character's usual walk was interrupted by the appearance of those same two suspicious people in Chinese straw hats. They approached him and addressed him by name. Immediately after these two approached our main character with an incredibly serious look, They told him to immediately walk with them without any questions or gestures. But judging by the indifferent look of our main character, he was not at all afraid of these two men. He asked these two who they were and why he should go with them. Apparently, the guy didn't care about them. After these two realized that whoever stood in front of them would not experience any sense of fear at all, these two still introduced themselves to some extent, saying that they were three-legged birds. However, after our main character heard that these two were from some organization, this did not give him anything, and, as if nothing had happened, he turned around and began to leave them as if nothing had happened. A couple of moments after this Kung Lao from Mortal Kombat saw the reaction. He said that he was still the same guy as before, and he had changed just a little. Immediately after our main character heard from this guy that he was someone he knew, he was very surprised, and this was evident from his amazing grimace on his face. At this point, the course of events ends abruptly, and we are apparently sent back in time. We watch the flight of a bat that flies near a dark town in the rays of the night light of the moon. Next, we watch as some suspicious man who appeared literally out of nowhere calls a man with a straw hat standing alone his master. He is accompanied by two allies. Immediately after a suspicious man in a dark robe appears near this big shot, he turns to him and asks the mysterious man in a robe how King Kang has been doing lately. After a couple of moments, we see this mysterious man in front of us, and reporting to the master is as usual. This servant sent someone to watch him. In front of us is someone known as the Shadow Killer. When this shadow assassin finishes his report, his master tells his subordinate to keep an eye on him. The emperor does not have much time, and the operation must not make any mistakes before the crown prince inherits the throne. This man in the straw hat continues to tell the shadow of the killer to be sure to look and find out who he comes into contact with, especially those who are part of the three-legged bird group. The mysterious man continues to say that besides the head of the local investigation department, Guan Lei and the magistrate Li Zhou have supported King Kang in the imperial court many times. They cannot leave these two people alone. A couple of moments after the Dark Killer receives all the information, it is encrypted so that you might not understand it. Some kind of energy begins to surround these three. The Shadow Killer turns into a bat and flies away. This mysterious man understands that King Khan is frivolous, but if he succeeds and takes the throne, then Bashar will die. Before us is the Prime Minister. He is clearly planning something dark. A couple of moments after this, we watch as these two strange people in straw hats and masks from a strange organization approach an unremarkable man who declares that his place is already closed. As soon as this man turns around to see who came to him, he is surprised because he never expected to see people from three-legged birds in front of him. He asks if the place is really closed. But immediately after this man realizes that people from some important organization are standing in front of him, he immediately says that he has changed his mind, and this place is always open for them, and they can go upstairs. Meanwhile, our main character is in the same place along with his student. Chuanbao asks the guy what kind of people they are, and Zhongyang himself replies that he shouldn't worry, because these are their people. Next, our main character begins to climb up and tells his student to come back first, because he needs to talk about something. Chuanbao answers his young master that he will wait for him here. After a couple of moments, we understand that our main character is again being watched by this blonde who serves some dark lord. The blonde does not understand how this guy knows people from three-legged birds. That is why this blonde, who has already managed to irritate everyone, tells the man in front of him to immediately begin to find information where these two live. This man answers him that they must carry out this order. He replies that they live together with Lady Jane. They all live in her house. Moreover, they received a secret message that Jane's husband secretly returned tonight. A couple of moments later, this blonde man tells his employee that he suddenly has a very good idea. He tells his employee that he can kill Xiong Yang with the help of General Jian. Next, this annoying blonde tells this employee that he needs to infiltrate General Zhang's mansion and find an opportunity to put this medicine in the wine and food of Xiong Yang and Lady Jane before General Zhang returns. Dove employees of this place come to the door where those very influential people from an influential organization are staying. They say that their time has come, and if they have any questions, they can ask. After a couple of moments, the man who owns this place tells his employee to shut his mouth because those who insult someone from the gang of three-legged birds do not have a good end. Further moving inside the room, we watch as Kung Lao from the Three-Legged Birds organization adjusts his hat and tells our main character that he is glad to meet you and he is ready to introduce himself. Not a moment passes before our main character rushes into the arms of this guy. He is very happy that he finally managed to meet one of his relatives. This Kung Lao is clearly in shock from this. Our main character continues to hug this man. He tells him that he, looking at the stars and the moon, was always looking for someone like him so that he would save him and take him from here as far as possible. For some reason, our main character is clearly confident that they will fly away from here thanks to a starship or something like that. He is clearly glad that, in his opinion, he will be saved very soon. These two don't understand what's going on at all. The left one asks him why he even thought that they would take him away from here, because if he doesn't cooperate with them, they won't let him leave. After a couple of moments, the second of this strange group says that they are here to find the Chosen One. Our main character does not understand what he is talking about and asks the question, "Who the hell is this?" Next, one of these mysterious men from a strange community explains to our main character that he could already see people from their organization are the same players who got here just like him. The man continues saying that people who have the same fate as them are called fellow citizens who are currently scattered throughout all the countries of this continent. That is, there are quite a lot of them. This Kung Lao continues by saying that before they came, they were occupied with various industries, including various soldiers, teachers, and even beggars. These people formed a group that only people like them could join. As a result, a group appeared which is called the Organization of Three-Legged Birds. As explained earlier, this group can only include those who came to this world from the real world in a mystical way. This Kung Lao from Mortal Kombat continues to clench his fist, saying that the power of a three-legged bird in different countries may be underestimated or vice versa, but all these forces strive to get to them. But their organization is different from others, that their priority in the first place is to find the chosen ones first. Our main character, after listening to all this amazing information, asks these two why they should look for the chosen ones. Having heard a question from our main character, Kung Lao answers that in truth, in fact, all of them are nothing more than a bug in this game that they got into mysteriously. The man in the straw hat continues his explanation by saying that this bug was discovered by a man named Wang Zhen, who is currently the current leader of an organization called the Three-Legged Birds. But due to the established rules, they cannot simply return home until they have completed the quest that is given to them by the system. Many players cannot complete this. Some die even at the beginning. Our main character listens with interest to every word said by people who are the same as him by origin in this world. He understands that many can really die in the beginning, because he also almost died. But a couple of moments after our main character tries to digest all this information, Kung Lao hits the table with all his might and says that finding the chosen one is completely different from everything else. This man continues saying that they must search for the chosen one until they can help him complete that very quest. Only the chosen one will be able to bring the entire cast of three-legged creatures together. The man continues saying that they must find the chosen one. Before the system has time to correct the error, they need to complete the quest as soon as possible. Xiangyang is very surprised after he hears all this. Our main character finally sees a way to leave this world. He puts both his hands on the table and asks how he can help find this person. He asks these two what characteristics the chosen one has. Immediately after our main character asks this, he receives the answer that the chosen ones must be from among the travelers here from another world. They say that he bears the sign of 3 dark stars. Meanwhile, our main character immediately hears the opportunity to undress. He does so and immediately begins to pose and correct whether the chosen ones have some specific body part. He is asked not to undress just like that. While these three continue very important negotiations, the young student of our protagonist is waiting outside. As promised, he wonders what his master could be talking about and what he could have been doing before he got here. Meanwhile, our main character is asked an identical question. He gets embarrassed and answers that he usually just went to nightclubs and had fun with girls. Sometimes he played football or something like that with Ronaldo. Having heard all this, Kung Lao is very surprised. Apparently, he has never heard of someone like that appearing in this game. He immediately asks our main character what type of people he was during his life. But after this man asks our main character what type of people he was, he only has questions because he has no idea. These two decide to move away to discuss something. One of the members from this organization, who is shorter, tells his ally that he heard about our main character on the news before he got here, and the second responds with a question, "What is wrong with this guy?" Meanwhile, while these two are discussing our main character, he thinks about what is on his skin. He assumes that it is a mosquito bite. Meanwhile, he is called a real black sheep, because all he can do is spend money without earning money. The shorter guy wonders if someone who is such an untalented person in life can even be chosen. They are not even sure about adding him to the group. They are sure that this is not the chosen one. After a couple of moments, these two finish talking to each other and approach our main character. The guy continues to look at his body. He is informed that they must go to find the next candidate. Next, these two, in order not to leave our main character empty-handed, hand him a badge in the form of a bomb bird from Angry Birds and tell him to keep it with him, because every traveler has one. The guy, out of thought, takes this rather strange badge into his hands. He is told that if he wears it, no one will dare to offend him. The guy understands that these clowns named themselves after Angry Birds. After a couple of moments, our main character decides to turn this bird over and discover on the backside the group number on his badge. If he needs help, he can contact him to find his group. After these two from the group dedicated to Angry Birds finish explaining everything to our main character, they tell him that he can return to doing system tasks. They ask him to take care of himself. Immediately after this, the two leave this place. They begin to discuss how they just wasted a lot of time, because this guy is nothing more than cannon fodder for their Sigma group. Following these strange men, a couple of moments later, our main character, his young student, comes out and immediately asks him if he is okay. He is very tired of waiting for him. The guy answers his student that he is okay, and there is no need to worry. A couple of moments after our main character goes out into the fresh air, he takes out his iPhone 17 Ultra and realizes that this community called Two-Legged Birds has quite a lot of subscribers. Then our main character remembers the words of the telephone grandfather that if he does not complete the system quest within 7 days, he will be dead right on the street. The guy finds it difficult to believe the fact that they are all players like him. The course of events ends abruptly, and we continue when we find ourselves in a capital city called West Keith. We watch as a huge horse cavalry attacks this town. A couple of moments after this, we watch as one of the soldiers who serves as a lookout goes out to the observation deck and sees how a huge amount of cavalry is rushing towards the walls of the castle. He does not understand who they are. Immediately after this, we approach the leader of this huge crowd of warriors on horseback. In front of us is a general named Zhen Bian. He orders his soldiers to open the gates to this city as quickly as possible. We understand that in front of us quite recently was the same general who was the husband of the same Lady Jane, whom we saw at the very beginning of the video. Her maids congratulate her husband on his promotion to the position of minister. As soon as our main character is not at all surprised by the achievements of this general, pointing his nose as high as possible, he laughs and says that he did nothing special. Moreover, he can do anything of his own free will. Meanwhile, Lady Jane is literally beaming with happiness. She talks about how she has prepared a little holiday and wine for her benefactor. She asks the young master to accept all the gifts that she has prepared. A moment later, the course of events moves to some unknown ninja who is about to add the same strange poison that the same vile blonde with long hair instructed him to add to the food. Then we watch how this ninja easily gets to his desired destination with the help of roofs. Thanks to the night, he is invisible, and he easily lands like a superhero on a hard surface. This secret ninja is very lucky, because on the first try he manages to find a table on which there is a huge amount of wine and various food. He understands that on this night, God is definitely on his side. Next, this ninja, who was very lucky, silently approaches the table in order to add the same poison to the drink and food that is on the table. But suddenly he hears a woman's voice inviting someone to come inside. This ninja begins to panic because he is starting to run out of time. He understands that he does not know in what dosages he needs to add poison. It is in this case that he makes a strong-willed decision to simply pour all the contents into the jug. After this ninja successfully completes his dirty trick of a rather serious, even deadly level, he immediately silently runs up to the wall and then begins to jump off it like this trampoline. In no time, this rather experienced ninja finds the ideal position from above in order to monitor everything that is happening inside. He understands that our main character will be dead before the arrival of General Jane. Meanwhile, our main character, in the role of benefactor, finally reaches the set table that Lady Jane has organized. She tells him that he can eat literally as much as his heart desires. The guy is hungry, so he is glad to hear it. At this moment, the ninja, who continues to watch everything that is happening in this room, simply cannot contain his laughter, because a very cool picture opens up to him. He wants to look at it all before he leaves. Next, this ninja, together with us, begins to watch as this woman takes that same poison jug with a deadly liquid and pours it into glasses so that everyone gets it. After the girl finishes filling this glass, she hands it to our main character and tells him that she respects him and wishes him good luck. Our main character replies that he will eat first and then drink. Lady Jane does not despair at all after she hears from her benefactor that he is going to eat first, in which case she says that she will drink first, after which she begins to empty the contents of the mug. The ninja who is watching this whole process begins to worry, because it is much more important for our main character to drink this liquid, because it will be much better if the two of them drink it and lose their lives. Meanwhile, the main character sits with a very pleased face. He tells Lady Jane that she cooks very well, and besides, in terms of the level of cooking, she almost caught up with his super chef from his past life. Apparently, the contents of the drink that this girl drank were not fatal, but with some very strange tonic effect, our main character immediately protrudes his eyes out of his sockets and cannot stop looking. With every passing second, we, together with the ninja, become more and more convinced that the contents of the drink were not so obvious at all. The girl tells the young master that she suddenly felt very hot. After a couple of moments, the effect of the drink continues to influence this girl more and more. She asks our main character to help her untie the ribbon on her dress that is at the back. Our main character, having heard this most strange request, is clearly very puzzled. He wonders why he should take off someone's clothes while he is enjoying the food for which he is being thanked. A couple of moments after our main character asks this question, another strange action occurs. This girl, who feels very strange, decides to put her hand on Xiangyang's head. A couple of moments after this, the girl completely loses her sense of shame, because the next action is the head of our main character plunging into a huge ocean. The girl says that she forgot to say that she knows that he was spying on her. Meanwhile, the ninja, who continued to watch everything that was happening in the room, begins to close his nose in the hope of stopping the bleeding. He understands that what he added increases the effect of attraction, and he should not look and leave. After a couple of moments, we approach our main character, who at this moment feels incredibly awkward. He understands that he knew that this must all be the work of the same old system of the thief who is testing him. However, our main character understands that he is still a Sigma and simply cannot continue like this, which is why he removes his head from the dive and puts both of his hands on the shoulders of this Lady Jane so that she comes to her senses. Making a face like in the anime JoJo, our main character tells Lady Jane that he appreciates her kindness, but he must apologize to her because she is still a married woman and he is not married, so he cannot allow this to happen. A couple of moments after this, Lady Jane is informed by one of the maids that her husband will return. Surprisingly, our main character is glad to hear this. He asks Milady to come to her senses because her husband has come. But literally a moment passes, and our main character realizes that he has absolutely no reason to be happy that her husband has returned from the battlefield, and his wife is reaching out to him to play. Our main character simply cannot believe his ears. He begins to panic greatly because he did not understand 100% that this girl's husband has arrived, and any minute he will be right here. In order to understand why our main character panics, we are reminded that this woman's husband is the best among all young generals who easily deals with hundreds of enemies during wars. He also understands that at this moment when the stern husband of this girl arrives, he is in his house with his wife in such a state that if he arrives, it will be easier for him to die than to explain what is happening. Our main character understands that it is too late to do anything. It is for this reason that he is already beginning to mentally prepare for the fact that her husband will definitely tear him into two parts after he arrives. Next, we watch as two maids, apparently understanding what is going on, try to stop the young general who has come from the war, but he tells them that this is his house and he can definitely return to the house where his wife is. Meanwhile, the ninja who is to blame for this whole situation understands that he coped with a bang, and even despite the fact that the guy did not drink the liquid, today he will probably have his funeral day. At this moment, our main character is trying to come up with at least something a little believable, because if her husband sees them in this state, he will be able to tell the story that he saved her when she was attacked. A couple of moments after this, our main character decides that the best way to save his ass is to pretend that it was attacked by a ninja who is on the roof, and thereby he will be saved. Immediately after our main character knocks out this girl with a ninja strike, her husband bursts into the room at the same moment, who happily opens the doors in front of him and shouts that he is home. The first thing this young general who came back from the war sees is our main character, who, with the help of a volley of fire, mercilessly deals with a stool that apparently attacked them. He shouts to the thief to stop running away. The next thing we see is really surprising, because our main character, with the help of his improvisation, sent a deadly weapon in the form of a fire tablet to a real thief who was sitting on the roof at that moment. The thief looked puzzled at the stool engulfed in fire that was flying at him and could not understand what it was flying at him. But a moment later, this stool explains to him who the daddy is and makes a powerful uppercut. This ninja is simply perplexed by what happened because he was defeated absolutely by accident, and perhaps in the most ridiculous way in the world, he understood that he was humiliated to the maximum by the fiery stool. Immediately after this ninja in a dark robe receives a powerful uppercut with a pill from our main character, he begins to roll off the roof of this mansion just like a sack of potatoes down. This ninja continues to fall without hope of salvation, but after a couple of moments his fall ends not with a meeting with the asphalt, but much worse. he comes face to face with a young husband who does not understand what is happening. Thanks to just a couple of actions performed by our main character, everything falls into place according to plan. Our main character nobly saves a poor woman from a thief who tried to kill her. But in truth, what was most surprised by this turn was our main character, who simply could not believe that there really was a damn ninja in this room. It was a shock to him. Immediately after this thief, who was knocked out from the stool in gravity, was looked at by the husband of this Lady Jane, who, judging by his look, was terribly dissatisfied with the fact that he even existed. Finding himself straight in the hands of a young general who has just returned from the war, this small thief begins to shake with fear. He is shocked that our main character knew about his presence. After a couple of moments, we watch a funny scene of how this same thief and our main character are connected. The thief was very sorry because he did not run away after he poured a strange poison into the jug. However, our main character quickly stopped thinking about this loser thief, because now the situation is very different from the original one. He wondered if this man had anything to do with Lady Jane. After a couple of moments, the silence of these two is interrupted by a young general and the husband of this woman. Wiping his sword, he asks these two what they were going to do with his wife while being in his own house. The thief is trying to save his life at any cost. He screams that it was not him, but it was Xiong Yun who tried to do terrible things to his wife with the help of a strange medicine that makes you want to play Fortnite. But then our main character also opens his mouth and says that he has absolutely nothing to hide. Then he says that he is just a spy from a group of three-legged birds that is already known to everyone. After our main character, after being completely filled with confidence, says that the thief is most surprised, and the general continued to look questioningly at the guy, demanding an explanation with his gaze. The guy continues saying that his group of three-legged birds is a very strong group, with which jokes do not end well. Moreover, if they want to present something to them, then the world of any person will become terrible. Our main character continues by saying that he, as a secret detective, the messenger of a three-legged bird, was investigating the recent frequent cases of kidnapping of women with medicine in the city. When he came to the general's house, he noticed the aura and decided to act. Our main character continued saying that after he met the thief face to face, he threw the object that was next to him as quickly as possible in order to neutralize the intruder as quickly as possible. The thief was shocked that the guy made up everything so quickly. The thief was still not going to give up. He continued to try to convince the young general and the wife of this woman to believe his version, because he came up with all this. And in fact, he is the only innocent one here. A couple of moments later, the general approached our main character and asked him how he could prove to him that he really belongs to the organization of three-legged birds that he is talking about. Our main character was not taken aback and said that in this case, he has a badge with a three-legged bird that is on his belt, so that the general would understand whether he is real or not. He suggested that he pull it out with his own hands. A couple of moments after this, the general took out from the belt of our main character what he was saying. He adds saying that this thief is definitely a thief, and in no case should he be trusted, and this was obvious. Immediately after our main character says this, the general or Lady Jane's husband turns sharply to our main character and, drawing his sword, swings it as hard as possible in order to strike. However, this pumped-up 2-meter man did not take out this sword in order to cut the guy into two parts. On the contrary, with his powerful swing, he freed our main character from the ropes with which he was tied. Immediately after this, as the general is convinced that our main character acted with good intentions, he bows to him and apologizes for not noticing that same noble savior in him. Our main character replies that they are all family. A couple of moments later, this Giga-Chad who returned from the war approaches the thief and tells him that after depriving this damn thief of his life, they will properly celebrate the salvation of his wife. The thief begs for mercy. Before losing his life, this thief turns over that same blonde, saying that he ordered him to do all this. Our main character, hearing this name, gets angry because Lin Ju again tried to put a spoke in his wheels, because he has no claims to Lady Jane. After the young general is completely convinced that our main character is absolutely innocent in this incident, he pours him green tea and immediately invites him to drink it in order to calm his nerves. While our main character kindly accepts the invitation to a tea party and begins to drink tea, the young general asks Xiong Yang if he knows what Ling Ju's motives could have been that would force him to do this. And the general in general asks our main character if he knows anything at all about the man who sent this killer to harm his beloved wife. Our main character puts down his tea and says that he knows a lot. Hitting the table, Xiong Yang says that he met only 2 days ago. Our main character's hatred for this bastard with blonde hair has already overcome all possible limits, because he is always like a pimple in one place. Moreover, besides the fact that this annoying blonde brings him a lot of problems, He literally killed his beloved father, which gives him a huge right to hate him with all his soul and call him a complete bastard. After our main character unexpectedly takes out a memorial plaque, the young general is very surprised and asks his brother Ian where the hell he got this memorial plaque from while sitting at the table. In response to this, our main character sadly looks at this sign and says that he carries this sign with him because it reminds him of every moment so that he never forgets about it, and he always remembers to take revenge on the bastards. After the young general hears the story why our main character carries with him a memorial plaque of his father, he, being a mighty warrior, sheds tears because a simply magnificent son is sitting in front of him. Our main character very much gets used to the role of the poor lonely son who lost his father and is now suffering, says that this is a strong blonde scoundrel and that he can't do anything about it because he's afraid of not getting revenge. While our main character continues to show the Giga child opposite him all his acting skills, showing his suffering and tears, the young general puts his hand on our main character's shoulder in order to support him. Then this general says that absolutely everyone will be punished for offending someone. Moreover, his filial piety can be seen in heaven. Besides, he saved his wife out of kindness, so he cannot sit back and do nothing. In response to this, our protagonist continues to use his emotions to control the man opposite. He tells him that he feels real relief after he realizes that he has the communication of a young general. On this touching note, where our main character plays the ultimate martyr, the course of events and the day ends and we continue when a new day comes, but in a different place, in the habitat of the blonde scoundrel. Moving in more detail together, we watch as this sick man again plays very strange games with his personal maids, putting a bandage on his head. He is going to catch some girl. After a couple of moments, this extremely sick and extremely disgusting blonde with long hair catches the girl and asks her that now he is looking where she can now run away from him. The girl asks to let him go. Immediately after this sick blonde man catches one of his maids, he starts licking her cheek, asking her what it tastes like. The girl asks this sick man to stop because he can't do that. Absolutely everyone is surprised at how old and sick this disgusting blonde is after all. After his games go too far, there is silence, and no one dares to say anything, being in shock. In fact, everyone is surprised that this maid, unlike all the others, interrupted that game and told him that he could not do that. She immediately rushes to his feet in order to apologize to him as quickly as possible. Immediately after this guy hears a refusal for the first time in his life, he probably tells his servants to immediately solve this useless girl with her useless tongue and throw him away. After the order of this sick guy comes, one of his servants actually takes the girl away to do what he was ordered. His other servant warns that the general has returned and this is not good. But after this blonde man ignores a warning from one of his employees to let him know that everything is serious, he informs him that right now our main character is outside. After this bastard hears the name of our main character, he finally turns around and in surprise asks this servant who gave him this news about why this guy is not dead yet. Immediately after this, the blonde decides to personally meet our main character, who at that moment is sitting on the same thief who was sent to kill him. He sits on it like on an ordinary chair. After this loser who felt cool thinks that he is the boss of the universe sees our main character, he tells his servant that this guy just came to his door to die. However, judging by the satisfied expression on the face of our main character and the way he sits contentedly on this bastard, he absolutely does not care about the words of this idiot, and he has a brilliant plan. After a couple of moments, our main character adds that the master came here to return what rightfully belongs to the master himself. His face continues to be frighteningly serious. Having heard this speech from our main character, the blonde man asks our main character if he means by chance the mansion that used to belong to him. He reminds our main character that this mansion was lost. In response to this, our main character says that he is mistaken, because the very first owner of this mansion is not him at all. It was the one whom he put in first place in the card game, which means he and the other two people who made the owners. In response to this annoying blonde asks our heroic hero what if they were playing with him. Then he asks his servant to bring him something. The servant actually brings the blonde some kind of package. Immediately after the blonde receives this document, he shows it right in the face of our main character, saying that this is a document that clearly states that the mansion belongs to him, so there is no point in denying it. However, our main character, apparently, is not at all interested in this. He simply, as if nothing had happened, snatches this document from the hands of this idiot. From this sudden movement, even a whistle can be heard. Immediately after this document stating that the mansion belongs to this blonde ends up in the hands of our main character, he abruptly begins to tear it into many different small pieces. After Xiangyang finishes mercilessly destroying this document, he says that he really made it so simple. He asks the blonde what he can do to him in this case. In response to this, the blonde gets terribly angry and points his finger at our main character and shouts at him how he can be such a shameless character, doing absolutely anything that comes into his sick head.